Hey guys, how's it going? Eli here, back with another video where today we're going to be having a conversation about the Pokemon market and just the overall general market, and if I potentially think we could see a lot bigger of a correction than what we originally thought. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So as always, got to get out of the way, we are doing weekly giveaways each and every week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday are the times in which you're able to enter, or the days in which you're able to enter. That is when we post our weekly pre-recorded videos. If you are subscribed and then leave a like and comment on any of those 3 videos or all 3 of those videos, they enter you in to win potentially 12 Brilliant Star booster packs. We're going to have 3 winners for that. So 3 opportunities to enter, 3 opportunities to win. So a lot of opportunities all around. And since it is Monday, Monday is the day in which we announce the winners. As always, if you are one of these 3 winners, make sure to either PM me on Discord or shoot me an email of some form of verification proving that it is indeed you. Now, showing the 3 winners, moving my face out of the way, which for some reason is not working. There we go. The winners are Lex Swain, Joshua Lou, and Lex. So like I said before, make sure to reach out to me via Discord, PM me, links down in the description below, or you can email us. Our email also is on our website if you want to go check it out at PokemartUSA.com. But now that we got out of that way, let's get into today's topic. So the reason why I've done a real market analysis in regards to have we seen the bottom, I'd like to do it, I want to say about once a month, once every other month, and really discuss is this kind of it? Are we going to see a bottoming out kind of formation? And this is something that I want to kind of discuss that I find very interesting first and foremost, but we've got a couple of articles we're going to take a look at later. So the first one is we're going to look at the Google Trends chart. And this chart really just shows you the amount of keyword term searches. And one thing I want people to understand, and this is something that's actually very important to understand, people say, Eli, why don't you do Pokemon cards, but with the asterisk over the E? Why don't you do Pokemon Go? Why don't you do X amount of terms? And the reason why I do Pokemon cards specifically without it is because when you talk about the overall search volume, Pokemon cards without the asterisk by far has the most search volume, hands down. You don't see a lot of people that are casual Pokemon card fans or are just learning about Pokemon and Pokemon cards using the asterisk because it's a lot easier to keyword search term. And as something I've learned myself, especially from running a YouTube video, keyword terms are very specific, and so understanding them is very important in regards to understanding trends and so on and so forth, especially when you're creating content. So Google Trends has really taught me that Pokemon cards is kind of the best one to look up without the asterisk over the E. So, or I don't know if it's called an asterisk, but whatever it's called. But as we can see on the chart, for those people that are looking at it right now, obviously this is the peak out of where the market kind of found its high back sometime in, I want to say, February. Absolutely peaked out, max interest over time. We saw a large crash sometime in August and September area, which is about accurate because that was around shortly after the time we had a bunch of reprints leading into, of course, October. So you started to see a pickup of interest after that in December and then January. Then you saw it go back down again, and then now it looks like it's starting to potentially go up again. Of course, there's no guarantee. What this currently at the very moment looks like, just from a general charting perspective, is we made a high, we made a low, we made a lower high, and then it looks like we are just at a point of indecision on if we want to. These kind of points represents a month. So I find it very fascinating. If we look at it from a weekly perspective in the past 5 years, we can see it's just showing once again still that we're technically flatlined, we've been going sideways for a while. So I mean, there's an argument to be made based off of this chart that we could see potential bottoming happening here. It really won't matter, in my opinion, until we go back and see what was the high of December in demand. Once we start breaking that point, then we'll have that conversation. But one thing I do find very important that we've talked about many times before on this channel is taking a look at correlations in other markets. And one of the things that we found, historically speaking, has been a huge indicator in regards to general correlations with the price of just overall Pokemon cards was surprisingly Bitcoin. You could easily follow the chart of Bitcoin and find out that usually either Bitcoin would pop off and then Pokemon would pop off right after, or Pokemon would pop off and then Bitcoin would pop off right after. So the real question we got to ask ourselves is which one is doing which? But if we just look at the overall chart right now, for what's been going on with Bitcoin. Here, let's take a look at the weekly chart, see if we can find any sort of indicators. So as you guys can see right now, Bitcoin is in what looks to be a little bit of a downtrend. So it is not exactly the healthiest looking thing. Obviously, Pokemon itself is still in a little bit of a downtrend. One thing I do find fascinating though, low 40s. Like it was just ranging back and forth forever. Of course, you know, you've seen the lows as high as 36,000 and then it ranges high as 47, but the general range has been, I think it looks like around the 44,000 and then as low as it looks like around the 3750. So that's kind of been the general range that, you know, the price of Bitcoin's in. And the reason why I find this quite interesting is because once again, we found ourselves hitting an area of support in regards to just overall demand trend lines for Pokemon. And we've seen that interest over time in the past, you know, 5-year weekly chart has really just shown once again a flat line where, oh, it looks like we were going to go up and then we went back down and then we just keep retesting back and forth. And we're going to see about potentially testing the top channel of the overall resistance points for just general demand. However, one thing I would like to have a conversation about is for those people that do follow altcoins. Altcoins have been bleeding a lot. I don't know how that's going to affect me on that. But going back into the main point of it all, if they are correlating with each other, it's honestly perfect to show the fact that these two things are going sideways. However, one thing that is also interesting to find is that just generally speaking, Bitcoin is actually also extremely correlated to the stock market. And what has the stock market been doing recently? It has been jump into on why there's an argument to be made that we could potentially be in for a little bit more blood than we actually realize. So this is news that came out recently, I want to say about 3 or 4 days ago. This happens at the end of every quarter, which is every 4 months. But basically, US GDP fell at 1.4% pace to start the year of the pandemic. For those people that don't know what GDP is, that's gross domestic product. That's just general sales within the United States. I've talked about this before in one of my videos. I did a full in-depth breakdown explaining what GDP was, explaining understanding markets, and so on and so forth on what drives and stimulates an economy. So if you haven't seen that video, I would go check it out. I'll see if I can find a link to kind of link you guys to the older video. But what this basically is telling us is that we're seeing a current slowdown in the market. And the reason why we're potentially seeing that is because the mortgage rates have been absolutely climbing. As of May 2nd, the average, this is the average, right, is 5.5%. 5.5%. Now, of course, for those people that are a lot older than me and grew up in the 70s and 80s like my parents, the average rate was a lot higher and even older than that. I mean, you saw interest, but considering what we've seen in the past, 3 to 4 years, we had interest last year alone. That's another indicator as rate hikes continue to go. It is coupled with a lot of speculation, a lot of fear. 2021, the average amount of individuals that were buying with cash was about 50% of Americans were buying their homes outright in cash. Versus this year, you're seeing the average be about 25% of Americans buying their homes outright in cash. So when you tell me that you have literally 50% less people buying their homes in cash this year than you did the year before. That shows a slowdown in demand. You see GDP growth hitting negative for the first time since the start of the pandemic. They are also coming out with reports saying that this is the most amount of homes that we've seen. That's showing is that we're just going to see a large increase in supply and a large decrease in demand. And so, of course, this is talking about the general overview of the market, and why this is important for you guys to understand is this all just bleeds into one another. You see Pokemon perform poorly, and when Pokemon performs poorly, it's like it's just a circle. Like everything just, you know, works with each other. And so typically speaking, when one thing performs bad, then most other things perform bad. So showing that we could see a correction in the stock market or the housing market soon. Stock market's already beginning to correct. I want to say May, June, July, August. So end of August. Is that right? No. It's 3 months. Wow. Why am I? Once we get the quarterly, I'm so sorry about that. That's 3 months. Wow. Once we get our end report for the quarterly, which I think it'll be shown in about 4 months from now. It's usually once they get it, but it's it'll obviously be every 3 months. So once we get to that kind of point of end of July, I want to say, is when we should see our next report. And if we do show signs of negative GDP once again, then it will be considered to be an official downtrend. It'll be an official recession. Now, of course, how big this recession is going to be, we don't know. But all we know is that in times of recession, money tends to get tight, demand starts to go lower, and so that could potentially lead to Pokemon prices speculatively going down. Now, of course, does that mean everything across the board is all of a sudden going to go into a free fall? It's all of a sudden going to crash? Speculatively speaking, no. There was no guarantee that everything wasn't going to drop only 5-10%. Instead, some houses drop 30%. Correction is going to be. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different and larger scale, considering the amount of money and debt we've kind of spent ourselves into in the past basic couple of years due to the COVID pandemic. So it's different in the way in which we haven't really dealt with a pandemic. The other time was usually having to do with people getting loans that shouldn't have had their hands on loans, and basic rating agencies fabricating the actual ratings, and so many other factors I won't get into as to what caused the initial collapse in 2008. But with that being said, it should still give reason to believe that there is a little bit of speculation to be had in a couple of months to year. So with that, of course, once again being said, what is the whole point of this video, and what is kind of the main theme that I'm trying to get across with this? Well, like I said before, I like to do market updates, and I like to give sentiment in regards to, okay, is now a time to, of course, start to FOMO buy. And of course, I never like to make my decisions based off of emotion, so that's never the answer. But the point I'm making is that is now the time to start aggressively buying, is now the time to start aggressively selling. And at the end of the day, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Everything's going to be different, and you have to also look at this from a long-term perspective versus a short-term perspective. What is kind of your mentality that you're having? If you're someone that's a flipper, then you're going to play the market no matter what. If you're someone that's a long-term investor, you have to look at it from a different lens. Medium-term investor, different lens. If you're buying, Pokemon modern product at around what is wholesale or less, then as far as it goes, you keep doing what you're doing, just wholesale or less, because if a correction happens, it's not going to go much lower than that. Now, if there's a conversation to be had that you're someone that's, purchasing WotC era product, you're talking about era, it's like a different conversation, because obviously these are out of print areas. And so potentially speaking, of course, huge asterisk on potentially, because a correction happen in a second quarter of a negative GDP growth, then I don't think it's without reason to believe that you will start to see a lot of Pokemon prices, specifically in the vintage, start to decrease in value. What you'll see mainly with modern is you'll see general pre-sale prices will probably be lower than what they usually would be. After pre-sale prices, you'll probably see the same exact thing, and then general waves will probably also see price corrections on a lot greater of a scale. Like you'll see booster boxes on average more below that 100 price point range. And for those people that were back in 2016 during the time of when Evolutions came out, you must also remember that you had these booster boxes sitting for less than $100 forever before they eventually went up to $1,000 at their overall peak. So that's to say that even sets such as, yes, Evolving Skies and Brilliant Star, hypothetically speaking, if they, of course, were to get reprints, and of course you were going to see a huge decrease in demand, they hypothetically speaking could sit for below $100. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, because this is a set that's already been out for a while. Once it gets its reprints, we'll see, of course, what happens with that, but it's more likely going to affect future sets once we really start to that downtrend. Of course, unless they really print Evolving Skies and Brilliant Star into the ground. So that is a completely different conversation to have. But one thing to mention as well in regards to Brilliant Stars, I had a lot of people ask me, hey Eli, you said that reprint was going to happen last week, haven't seen prices move. Well, there was a little bit of delay on my shipment. I actually just received my Brilliant Star shipment today from one of my distributors this week. My other distributor just announced that they're going to be shipping out to me later this week. So it looks like more or less it was actually going to be this week. It was just shipments were supposed to be last week for one of my distributors and my other ones this week. So you could potentially see price correction begin this week. We don't know how big of a reprint. I mean, I would assume it's going to be enough to at least drop the price down by 20 to 30 bucks. Could be wrong, could be more, could be less, but just make sure that you're being patient on that and waiting at least a couple of weeks, watching the price potentially correct. But of course, I just wanted to kind of point that out. But back onto the topic. So what is my general kind of strategy to this is another question that I feel like a lot of people are going to be asking me. All right, Eli, so let's say this market correction does happen. Let's say that we continue our downtrend. What is going to be your overall general buying strategy, whether it be with vintage, whether it be with modern, ultra modern, just whatever it may be. So as I mentioned before, when it comes to ultra modern, I'm going to cation too, then that's even better. Talking about Vivid Voltage ETBs, Darkness Ablaze ETBs, Shining Fates ETBs. Those are all ETBs that are going to be high demand and they're about to go to rotation. Huge fan of those. Obviously, I was saying to heavily buy into Evolving Skies back when it was $100 or below $100. I'm probably going to say the same thing depending upon what happens with Brilliant Star. But just looking at those high demand products that are about to go out of rotation or if they're in rotation. But look, if your overall outlook is very much so long term, then for you, you just buy the duty. If you're playing obviously the short to medium term game, that's a little bit different of a conversation. But understand the area in which you're trying to get into and see what the general trend is. 2017, and you saw a huge market correction on the price of Bitcoin. Link was one of the crypto altcoins that was actually in an uptrend while the rest of the market was in a downtrend. So that's to say basically that during the Pokemon market, more or less correction, if it does happen or begin to follow the general market correction is going to happen, is certain subsets of the Pokemon market are going to also be popping off while the rest of the market is going down. So you want to be able to identify those subsets, and if you do, then play accordingly. Basically just find good opportunities, and if you're trying to flip, if you're trying to medium term, then obviously you play it that way, watching the trend. And if it's one that is going on a downtrend, then obviously you have to say to yourself, all right, well, if I'm trying to do medium term games, you're just seeing a suppressed amount of gains each and every year. What do I mean by that? Obviously we see a large amount of volatility in the Pokemon market where you're seeing gains literally of upwards of 100% in the span of 3 to 4 months, whereas before you were like, if you're getting 12%, swing kind of go down with a lot of products. So who knows, you could see a correction followed up by a less amount of volatility, or you could see an increase in volatility, but it's more or less just starting a downtrend. There's so many different opportunities, but the whole point once again of this video is to really just make you guys self-aware of, hey, you're seeing things happen in the market that is, as well as the fact that I do believe that there's going to be more opportunities to come. And so don't feel like you ever have to jump in and buy right here, right now, because if you don't, it's going to keep going up. And if it does hypothetically go up, there's always going to be other ways, on and so forth. But now wrapping up and once again giving the main point of the video. So this is going to be the main jump point of the video. we had a conversation about how there's correlation and trends between Pokemon charts, as well as comparing it to the price of Bitcoin. And then, of course, the price of Bitcoin correlates with the stock market. We saw our first quarter since the start of the pandemic of negative GDP growth. If we have another quarter of negative GDP growth, then we're going to be considered officially to be in, and then an increase of supply in regards to Pokemon products, specifically in Ultramodern. And then, of course, since you're saying that with other out-of-date product that is deflationary, you're just going to see a lower amount of demand, which once again will still bring the price down, or at least it will have a suppression on the amount of gains that you're going to average each and every year, where the gains had started to suppress themselves each and every year. So just everything, but generally speaking, there's an expectation that if we do see a recession happen within the next 3 to 6 months, then Pokemon prices are probably going to follow for at least the short term. And so do not FOMO buy. Make sure that when you're making these decisions, of course, once again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but you're making these decisions that are based off of rationality and they're not based off of general emotions. So always do your own research and make sure that you're jumping into what is considered to be a good opportunity and not something that you're impulsively buying because you yourself don't want to miss out on potential opportunities, as there will always be many within the Pokemon market. But as far as it goes, that is all I have for today's video. Down below on any of these we post each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to have 3 winners each and every week. Each winner is going to be receiving 12 Brilliant Star booster packs. And so we hit 5,000 subs. So can't thank you guys enough so much once again for the love and support. But as far as it goes, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you all on Wednesday.